So thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome.
I would like to start with having you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, Carolyn Charron. I started writing in my mid to late 40s. I had my first short story published at age 49. I was almost 50, mostly because I sort of listened to other people say that, oh, it's too hard to do this. You know, you should give up before you even start. So glad I ignored them and went back into it. I started writing mostly because I needed something to get away from my kids. Mostly love my kids to pieces, but I needed something that was just for me, right? So I've been wanting to write since I was like 5 or 4, or I don't know. I've been wanting it all my life, so I'm glad that I'm finally here and doing something with it. So for relaxation, I knit, which is why a lot of my protagonists tend to knit to de-stress. So yeah.
So, if you can tell me, how did you feel when you first found out about the anthology?
Oh, excited actually. There's an awful lot of stories that don't have disability in them. And I have relatively minor disabilities at the moment. I have osteoarthritis and degenerative disc disease. So it's going to get progressively worse. It's going to get worse. It's not going to be getting any better. I'd like to see more people that look like me, that sound like me, that behave like me in there. I'd like to see them just sort of coping with it, not as the story, but just as it's just part of who they are. So I got pretty excited. I mean, I met Kat rather, last CanCon, my very first CanCon, and she was very welcoming and very friendly. And talking to her and to Derek made me realize that we needed to push to get a little bit more out. So when I first saw that the anthology was coming out, I thought, oh, I need to write something about this. So I pulled out something that had been in my I couldn't do it justice 5 years ago pile and pulled it out. And suddenly, once I put into the character's background that she had these disabilities, the story just sort of flew. I had the opening sequence that she had this vampire tenant in her basement that she wanted to bite her. That's all I had. I couldn't do it justice when I first started it 5 years ago. So once I knew who she was and how the disability framed her life, the rest of the story just sort of came out, you know? So, yeah.
Awesome. So, would you say that, have you ever seen yourself represented in a fictional story?
Not usually, no. Most protagonists are fully abled. Most of their parent figures who I'm now sort of, connecting more emotionally with, they tend to be the ones that might be someone that I can empathize with or see myself in. But they tend not to be there for very long. I mean, we still have this in most fiction. We still have this, let's just kill off all the frickin' parents. So the parents don't end up showing up in these things. So having disabled parents is kind of a rarity. They're not there. They're dead or they're invisible, you know? So don't see me much.
So, can you tell us a little bit about your story?
The story is about an older woman. She's in her early 70s. She has certain handicaps, disabilities that prevent her from moving without pain on a regular basis. She knits to de-stress herself, and she has a tenant in her basement who she discovers is a vampire. And she desperately wants him to bite her. She's lonely. She wants to continue living her life despite the things that are in it that other people think is, oh, why would you want to continue living if you're in pain all the time? And being bit by a vampire isn't necessarily going to take away her pain. So that was a big deal in the story. I wanted her to show people that it doesn't matter what kind of pain you're in, whether you have any on a daily basis or not. What matters is what you make of your life on a day-to-day basis. She wanted to continue making friends. She wanted to continue experiencing things in life. And as she put at some point in the story, she had a lot of projects that she still needed to knit. So these are important considerations for her. So that's what I wanted to have her do, was show that you can have life.
Why do you think this anthology is important? And specifically fiction. Why do you think it's important?
Because it's important that we see ourselves in fiction and that we see other people who aren't like ourselves. I see a ton of stories about people that I know nothing about their lifespan. I know nothing about what their life is looking like. I'd like to see other people to see more of what my life looks like instead of me just always seeing what other people's lives look like. I'm never going to ride a horse again, or unlikely. I'm never going to get into a sword fight. I see a lot of this kind of stuff. I'm never going to be a super secret spy like James Bond. But we see a lot of these kind of stories, and I want other people to see the kind of stories that are going to be in this that they might not otherwise see, because they have people in their lives that are experiencing the same kind of stuff that I am, and that I'm sure the other authors in the stories this anthology are experiencing. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to sort of peek into your family and your friends' lives just for a moment and see what it looks like looking out from their eyes?
Last question already.
Okay.
Can you tell
That was
us?
fast.
Yeah, I know. Can you tell us where to find you?
You can find me usually on Facebook. I tend to be there far more often than I should be. I recently opened up an Instagram account for mostly knitting related kind of stuff, but I spend most of my time on Facebook. I live in Toronto, so it's pretty easy access to, go grab a coffee with people sometimes. But Facebook tend to be the easiest place to find me.
Perfect. And is it Carolyn Charron, author?
Yes. I have two accounts. I have the family account, and then I have the author account, which is where I keep, hopefully, fans up to date on what I'm doing and stuff. And yes, this will be on there as soon as it comes out.
Excellent. So. All right. Well, do you have any last thoughts for us?
No, I think I talked a little bit more than I'd planned on already, so I think I'm okay. Great. This was fun. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, the only other thing that I want to mention is I loved your idea about the artists getting involved in helping with the Kickstarter and stuff. So I really hope we can come up with a great idea for something that I can knit. I'm super excited about that. So
oh, yeah. I was really excited about your proposal, too.
It fits with the character, right? It's like, I want to do this. Yeah. So, and you can connect it to this in the Kickstarter, hopefully, right?
Exactly.
So we'll take it from there. So, great. Thank you so much, Nathan.
Well, thank you.